Okay, we're going to start in the room. First of all, we've got quite a number of journalists here at the MCG, and then if we have time, we'll take some questions from Zoom. We're going to start first with, we'll go to David here, David Charlesworth on the second row. Go ahead, David. Please wait for a mic before asking a question. Thank you.
Thanks, Danny. Hi, Jos. Do you have any team for us? Any changes tomorrow? Or?
No, wait and see how training goes, see how everyone comes through, and hopefully we can pick from a full squad.
Must be delighted with how you started the campaign, obviously, to get off with a win. The ball in the field and were sensational.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as always, you've been building to that point for a long time as well, which adds with it a bit of nerves and stuff when you finally get to that moment. So great to get out there, get a win under our belts, and as you mentioned, the bowling and fielding especially was outstanding.
And just how do you approach the Ireland game? Obviously they've beaten the West Indies to get to this stage. How do you go about it?
Yeah, we give them great respect. We expect a really tough game, so we'll prepare well. We'll try and turn up on the day and assess conditions, see what's in front of you, try and use our talent as best we can on the day to put pressure on them and try and win the game.
Lovely, thanks.
Yeah, go ahead, Scott.
With 2 games in 3 days here in Melbourne, are you likely to or discussing rotating some of the bowlers, keeping people fresh for Friday?
Well, I think what's important is to try and put what we think is our best team on the park as many times as we can, and that will the 11 can change depending on conditions, opposition, which ground we're playing at. But I think with what's happening with the weather and stuff, if you said we'll target a couple of guys for a certain game and then that game then doesn't take place, I think it's maybe a bit tough to try and predict that the weather's going to be perfect. We've seen a few games affected by rain already. So now in such a short tournament, in must-win games pretty much every time, we'll try and get our best team on what was potentially the best team on the day. As mentioned before, due to conditions, opposition, we'll try and pick what we think is our best team every game.
I guess a lot of people from the outside looking in would see this Ireland game as perhaps England's easiest of the tournament, but I'm guessing there's no complacency from you guys.
No, certainly not. Any time you take things for granted or you don't respect the opposition is when you can get hurt. I think in T20 cricket especially is the one format where it's as level a playing field as any. So like you mentioned, individuals have some fantastic players in their own right who can win the game on their own. So you've got to be fully committed, prepared, and ready for the challenge ahead.
George, go ahead.
Good day. Is it too early to say that it looks like it's a tournament where the bowlers are going to get a little bit more assistance? Is that something that you think might change as we get, into summer a little bit here?
I don't know. I think we've seen the ball move around a little bit, although I'd say New Zealand looked like they didn't mind it when they got off to a fast start. So, watching the game here between India and Pakistan, there's some quality bowlers on show, but they certainly got some assistance. And again, I think, like I keep reinforcing to the players, it's about seeing what's in front of us on that day. If the ball is swinging, can we use that to our advantage? If it's not, can we recognise that quickly and change plans if we have to? I think it's to try and be as prepared as you can and try and make sure there's no surprises. But I think the real skill of the game is to turn up on the day and be able to assess quickly and then do what's required.
And you feel pretty well suited to adapt to that with the side you have?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we have lots of bases covered in our team and in our squad. So we can go with different balances of teams. We can go with a different variety of attack as well. So we certainly have lots of options.
Gentlemen at the back, we've got Mel and Simon.
Just following on from that, Jos, you guys have played a lot of cricket collectively here at this ground, a lot of white ball cricket, a lot of test match cricket in some cases. This track played differently to the normal T20 blueprint on Sunday night. Did you have any observations of that? And you mentioned being adaptable. Does it sort of change your thinking going in about how much the ball moved around early and how spin didn't grip at any stage, really?
Yeah, I think, again, like you say, you just got to be very open-minded and ready to do what's required on that night. I think the the balance of the team we had in the last game, we had 7 bowling options, 4 seamers and 3 spinners, so didn't end up bowling much spin in Perth, but certainly could do if we needed to, and you can sort of skin it either way. We have the option of playing an extra bowler if we wanted as well. So we take all that information in, and again, like you say, it's trying not to have too many preconceived ideas of this is what's going to happen, and it's about turning up on the day, as I keep saying.
Does it change your thinking from a batting approach at all?
Well, I think the big skill of batting is to work out what's happening really quickly. Again, in Perth, it felt like the ball was swinging around. Faruqi was getting it to move both ways, and it felt like you have to change your approach initially and give some respect to those conditions and play accordingly. On another day, the pitch will feel great and there won't be any swing, and then you change your plan as well. So it's about trying to assess that as quickly as you can. Again, doing your preparation to hopefully get a decent idea, but not being sort of so hung up on this is exactly how the game's going to pan out, and then working it out on the day.
Mel and Simon?
Jos, even with the T20s that you played before against Australia, the warm-up, does it feel to you like the white ball is swinging a lot more in Australia than you've experienced in the past?
Potentially, yeah. I think the last game at Canberra, I think the ball felt like it was swinging as well, and there's good movement in Perth through the air. So whether it's more or less, and I'm not sure. I think right now, for whatever reason, whether it's the weather, the conditions, the bit of moisture feels like maybe it keeps the ball quite new. I think Sam Cohen even got the ball to swing in the last over of the game at Perth. So potentially. There's certain things you will probably pick up throughout the tournament as it goes on, but that can change the other way as well.
And just on we saw what happened last night with South Africa and Zimbabwe, and there has been a lot of rain around, and this La Nina is hanging around. I know you say you play what's in front of you and you're open-minded, but just how much planning is going into different scenarios if you do face shortened games?
I think the big key is to be able to react quickly to those kind of things. You have a little idea of things you might do if those kind of things happen, but again, don't want to get too sort of preoccupied with what ifs. When a situation arises, let's try and adapt as fast as we can. Try and make quick decisions that we feel is in the best interests, and I think what's great about our squad and our team is we've got lots of different options, and even in the same team you can ask people to fulfill different roles, so I think that gives us a lot of options when situations change quickly without whether that's rain or something, then we can try and change tack quickly and adapt. Again, I don't want to sort of spend all night staying awake thinking about what might happen, and try and react to when it does happen.
Simon at the front, just here, and then we'll go with Dean and then Cameron.
You talk about not wanting to think about what might happen. Last year, the way you started the tournament against West Indies, got massively ahead on net run rate, kind of tilted that group. South Africa ended up getting knocked out on net run rate. Obviously, New Zealand are massively ahead now. To what extent do you think about that ahead of games, and to what extent do you think about it during them?
More so potentially during a game. I think you have to try and, first and foremost, try and win the game. That's the most important thing. Net run rate doesn't matter much if you lose games of cricket. And you're not going to progress in the way this tournament is set up. So you have to try and put yourself in a position to win games of cricket, and then if the added benefit of you might be in a situation where you can try and really improve your net run rate, then you've got to try and take that.
So you don't go into a game thinking this might be an opportunity for us. You think about that like 3/4 of the way through the game. And
yeah, I don't want to trip yourself up trying to be too clever and end up losing a game.
Dean?
Andy Barboni said this when they qualified in second place. The first fixture his eyes went to was the England game for obvious reasons. What's it like being on the other side of that when you know because of the local rivalry and the familiarity that Ireland are probably really going to bring their best for the contest against you?
Yeah, it's a World Cup, so you expect every opposition to bring hopefully their best cricket. We're the same. We want to play our best cricket against every single opposition. I know England playing Ireland is obviously from the outside adds extra storylines, or they can add extra motivation for certain people. But for our team, we respect every opposition. We expect a really tough game from everyone we play. We're very much taking one game at a time, and we don't expect Ireland to sort of not bring their best cricket. They're going to be fired up for the game. They're going to want to try and beat us, and we want to beat them.
Do you have any thoughts on whether a ball should be a dead ball if a batsman's out on a free hit?
Yeah, it's a tough one to work out, I think, and there's a lot of laws of cricket which are quite unique. If someone, I don't think it's far from perfect. I think that is, but then I can see lots of other flip sides of, because say the third umpire calls the front foot no ball, you might get caught at deep mid wicket and cross for a run, and then you get called back, and then you actually go back on strike and it's just a dead ball. Whereas actually, if the umpire had called no ball on the field, you wouldn't have been out and you'd have scored an extra run. So I think that's maybe something else that is not quite ideal. I don't think the review system is perfect. If, say, you need one to win in the World Cup final, you get given out LBW and you cross and have completed a run, and then you review it, you're not out, it's just a dot ball. So I don't think that's quite ideal either. And I think, again, whether it's a dead ball after a free hit is, again, if you got caught, if you hit it and got caught and run two, that'd be fine. But then off the stumps, whether you should be able to run or not, I don't know. So I think whether all of those things can be cleaned up a little bit would be beneficial. But where that ball goes off the stumps, as we saw, India managed to score 3 runs off that ball, which is a huge swing in the match. It's for them, they'd obviously be like, yep, that's perfect rule. But for Pakistan, it obviously hurts them.
So yeah, just kind of
yeah. Hopefully, it doesn't affect us.
Yeah, exactly. The other question, you talk a bit about the weather and how that may affect things. We've seen thus far. We saw in the game between South Africa and Zimbabwe, the umpires really trying to get a game to 5 overs, even though it was raining significantly. In the end, they kind of came off. Are you kind of happy with the approach of the ICC spoken to you as captains about how umpires are going to try and deal with that? Because obviously it can affect everything.
Yeah, it can, absolutely. And I think, where it's reasonable, if you can continue the game as much as you can, I think that's, the right decision. If it becomes dangerous or it becomes unfair, then it's certainly the right decision to stop the game. Whichever side you're on, you're probably going to have a little tendency one way. But I think as much as we can, if we can get the game moving, get the game continuing, I think, if it's, say for instance, we play tomorrow and there's a little bit of rain, which isn't that heavy, and it looks like it's going to blow through, can we just stay on and keep going? If it certainly gets to a point where it's very unfair or it's dangerous, then it's certainly the right decision to stop the game.
Okay, out time, we'll do Cameron, George, and then we'll finish with Matt here.
Hi, Jos. Harry Brooks had an amazing year this year. Just from a technical standpoint, what do you think he's so good at that allows him to succeed?
Well, I'm not great at the technical side of the game, but from watching, he's very still. His head is very level. He plays the ball right underneath his eyes, which I think is a great skill. I'm sure being a Yorkshireman, he's got a great idol in Joe Root as someone who's got a fantastic technique to try and copy a little bit. But I think with what I find amazing is how he's got options all the time as well, especially talking in the T20 game from a very balanced position, from the same position. He'll let the ball get really close to him and drop it at his feet, and the same ball he's got the ability to use his power and clear the ropes. I think that sort of clarity of mind is something that he's got a huge strength of as well. But certainly his basics are very strong, and if you watch him prepare in the nets, he spends a lot of time working on the very simplistic basics of his batting, which I think in any format of the game will always serve you well.
You two are probably two of the best kind of rampers and lappers, whatever you want to call it, in the game or in the England team. Have you spoken to him at all about that process? Do you go about it in a different way at all? Have you found it interesting speaking to someone who has that same option that you do, which is quite a unique one?
Yeah, you talk a little bit around it. I think all of the guys who sort of share ideas in the nets, and it's probably one of the things I like most about the game is sharing ideas around the nets and trying to imitate and copy other players. And yeah, he's a fantastic exponent of that. I think, like I say, he's a real 360-degree player. He's got that power game to be able to clear the ropes. He's got touch game, like I mentioned, and then he's got a solid basic technique to fall back on as well, which is obviously allowing him to play all three formats. Whether it's a white ball or a red ball, he's I think going to have lots and lots of success.
One each, George.
Hi again. The template that we saw the other day, well, is that a template, basically, is my question, accepting about the adaptability, but are we likely to see Wokesy bowl 3 at the front, Ben bowl 1 at the front, Sam bowl 18-20, roughly?
I think it's impossible to say. If Wokesy bowls 1 over for 30, the first one, then you probably wouldn't bowl him again. So I think, and that's why I've tried to get again across to all our players. I don't want to pigeonhole people in certain areas. It's down to me as captain and using Moeen on the field as well to try and pick who we think is best at a certain time to bowl. And I've sort of encouraged everyone to practice all phases of the game, whether that's new ball, middle overs, or at the end. As a captain, it's fantastic to be able to call on whoever you feel is best suited at that moment. Sam Curran is someone who is a good exponent of swing bowling as well, so he's certainly someone you can use with a brand new ball as well. So we might do it differently on different days.
Matt, last one, please.
Jos, I think I'm right in saying you're a big rugby fan, and you see some big England-Ireland rivalries in those games. What does this mean for cricket, and what do you see this rivalry like?
I think any time we play sort of nations close to home, and that brings natural rivalry. It brings some history of certain things into the game, and just seeing a really exciting game of cricket. I think we look forward to the match. I know Ireland will be really excited and looking forward to the match as well. But again, as I keep saying, it's about preparing to play on the day and playing a good game of cricket to try and beat a really tough opponent.